Okay, so what we did previously in our little JS tester here is we created had a number of different variables. We're changing them. Sometimes they were global, sometimes they were local, and then we also created a list. So this was the source code for our JS tester. And where we ended up was in this guy here, where we created a list of names. This has all been commented out. This is the last thing that we did. We're just alerting each element in our list, my list. And the first time it's going to be Ann, then Bob, then Kathy, then Doug, and it cycles back through. So I'm going to alert the elements, then I'm increasing that variable. So the next time through, it was 0. Now it's going to be 1, then 2, then 3. Here I'm doing a little test, and I'm saying if number is greater than 3. So as it goes up, I'm going to be doing a test. If it's greater than 3, that's the max value of the last element of my list. So if I'm now outside of that, if I've incremented number so many times, it's off the edge of the end of the array, I'm going to reset number back to 0. So if I keep doing it, I never get undefined. What I'm going to get instead is it's going to go all the way up through Doug, and then after Doug, if I click it up a fifth time, it's going to cycle back and it's going to display Ann. So that was the code that we did, and now what we're going to do is make this into a slideshow. So you first need to get a minimum of, let's go with five images. And I think that it makes your page look better if the images are pretty close to being the same size, right? So if they're exactly the same size, same number of pixels, width and height, then they're just going to pop in, and your pages are going to change size. The buttons aren't going to move around as the images grow and shrink. It'll look like they're all designed to go into that one frame, that one image tag, and then it'll just pop in. So that's what I did. I created 4 different images, one for various characters of the office. I'd like you to do 5 images. So I'm the teacher. I got to do 1 less than you. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Inside my images folder, I've got these guys here. So slide 1, slide 2, slide 3, and slide 4. I've got a few other things in there too. Um, and slide 0 is just a question mark. That is just sort of a starter. I think that's a good way to do that. You could have curtains, you could have text there, but have an image that is going to pop in. That's not going to be the first image of your whole thing. So this is all the office. Maybe instead of a question mark, maybe I'm going to do some sort of office title. All of these images, if I mouse over them, I can see what the size is under dimensions. So the dimension of the first is 273 by 364. So is the picture of Jim. So is the picture of Pam Beasley, and Dwight Schrute is also 273 by 364. They don't have to be that exact size. That just happened to be the size of this picture, and I made all of the other ones exactly the same. You can kind of see that those other pictures are smaller. I could have stretched the pixels out. The image would get blurry if I were to do that. So I just opened these up in Paint, resized them, kind of positioned them the way that I wanted, poured a solid color around it wherever there was white. So that's what I've got going in my images folder. And then I also have this guy here, this slide 0. That's going to be the starter image that pops up. So when my page loads, I'm not going to have any of the characters from The Office showing. It's going to be the question mark. All right. So where is it? I'm going to give you some starter code. So if you go to Google Classroom under week 5, there's a Clifford shares his code, and this guy here is going to give you, it's going to be the start for all of that code, and make sure that you get everything from the opening HTML to the close. I'm going to copy that. Now go to my editor. So here's my editor. I'm going to paste all of that in. And you'll notice that my list, I've just got these list of question marks. So that's not ideal right now, but your images are going to be different than mine. So you're going to need to change these question marks to the right value. I'll talk about that in just a second. So I would like you to name this slideshow, lowercase to start with, capital S for show.html. Go to File, go to Save As, navigate to your website folder. I'm calling it slideshow.html. Click on Save. You won't get that message. Okay, so I have my code saved the way that I need to. What I'm giving you is, again, so there's no image yet. I'll be filling that out in just a second. And then I've got this button that is calling the start of the show. That's the name of this function. I'm going to start by finishing this up. I'm going to, what we've done before is created a image tag that had an SRC. We'll still do that, but I also want to give this an ID. So ID equals quote, and I'm going to call this pick frame. And that is a way of being able to get that object in my function from above. I'll show you how to do that momentarily. So it's going to be called pick frame. That's the name of that given image. That's now an object. And I want that question mark to show up. So the SRC, the source for this is going to be quote. It's going to go to my images folder, images slash, and I'm going to call it slide 0 dot JPG. Close quote slash close angle bracket. I believe that this question mark is also this exact same size as well. So I will save that and refresh my page. And there it is. So here's my, the title should change. Here's the question mark, and the alert should pop up when I click on that. That's an important thing to do. So it's tempting to start writing code that's going to help me on my my slideshow, but I want to make sure that there's that the link is good, the call is good from the button to my method. The fact that I've got that alert there indicates that that is in fact the case. So this is in fact calling start show, and we're ready to go. So the next thing that needs to happen is I got to make sure that I change those question marks to the correct path. And that's going to be, I can't provide you with that exactly because the name of your images and mostly the extension is going to be probably different from mine. So if I go back into my list here, and so I've got slide 0, and then I've got, that's a JPG. Slide 1 is a PNG. 2 and 3 are both JPGs, and slide 4 is another PNG. So I have to pay attention to what are the extensions for this. So the main ones is starting with slide 1, going to slide 4. And again, just make sure that those extensions are correct. So I'm going to replace this. This is really going to be the path from this web page, slideshow. I've got to go into my images folder and get slide 1, and that's a .png. So I think that's correct. And so I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to paste it in. Got to make a couple changes here. So the second element of my list is going to slide 2. This is not a PNG, it's a JPG. Same thing is going to happen again on the third. I'm going to simply paste in the other. That's just going to slide number 3. This is also a JPG, JP. And then lastly, I've got one more set of question marks. And this is going to be slide number 4. I'd like you to come up with a fifth. So you would put a comma here. Paste quote mark is also needed, and a close quote for that. That's going to be slide number 5, and that is going to be get the extension correct. All right. So I don't have one, so I'm not going to need that, nor am I going to need the close quote. So add a fifth. You need to have a comma after slide 4, no comma at the end of slide 5. So what I have here is the text of the path to each of those subsequent pictures. All right. So let's see if we can get this guy to load picture number 1. So now what you're going to want to do is I've given you the second line of code that is a little tricky, that you haven't seen before, that is a little specific, getting all the capital letters in the right spot and dots and all that. So this is a document dot get element by ID. It's looking for that picture frame that we did, and we're going to assign the SRC for that image tag to a given value. So you're going to copy this guy, go back to your code. Again, it's called pick frame. I might have changed that, so maybe a bit of an update that I need to do. And no, there we go. So document to get element by ID pick frame. You do want to make sure that these guys are identical, capitalized, spelled exactly the same. So this is getting this image tag, this get element by ID. The SRC, that is, and again, the SRC initially is the question mark. That's slide 0. What I want to do is I want to change that. I'm going to call one of the elements from my pick list. So I'll say pick list at 0. This is now going to get the slide number 1. So it should change this, go to images, find slide number 1.png and display it. So if I save this and now go back to my slideshow, hit refresh, there's the question mark, and I click on it, it should change to Michael Scott. Very nice. So that's cool. That's great. I can I have a number variable. This is a global variable here, so it's starting at 0. That is the first element of my list here, and so I'm going to change 0 just to test to make sure that they all work. I think it's a good idea to just put in these raw numbers first before we change it to the variable. So click me is now going to look for Jim. That one's good. Let's go back and change that to 2. Save and refresh. And this is a good way just to make sure that all the pictures are going to pop up and we don't have any errors. Is it the code? Is it the name that we had? So I can go through here, and this is eliminating the code part of the problem. I'm just making sure that my SRC, the spelling and the capitalization, all that stuff is working. There's Dwight. He's the last guy. So that's all good. Now what I want to do is, let's see if we can get that to increment each time through. So instead of a literal number, I'm going to use my number variable. Right, so it's initialized to 0. So if I save and refresh this, it should go back to Michael Scott. And it does. All right. So again, it looks kind of funny that this is position 0. The first element is 0. The last element is 1 less than the number of elements in my list. So this is position 3, even though there are 4 that's in a total. You can take a look at your JS tester and write code that will increment that variable. So after I display it, I want number to be reassigned to its current value, number, plus 1. If I do this, now every time through my loop, I'm doing a couple things. One is I'm displaying the next picture. Now I'm adding 1 to my list. I have a little bit of a bug that will occur. You'll see it in just a second. I'm incrementing my variable. So the next time it was 0, now it's 1. So when I click the button the second time, it's going to be displaying the element at my pick list number 1 instead of 0, which is going to go to images slide2.jpg. And so the correct path to that image is going to be displayed. So here's a refresh. There's the question mark. Click. There's Michael Scott. Second time I click, there's Jim. Hey, that's pretty cool. Third click is Pam Beasley. Fourth click is Dwight Schrute. Now I have a problem. The problem is that number is continuing to increment. It's continuing to go up, but I don't have a picture at that point. So I get this broken image tag because there is no image 5, so that's undefined. So I'm trying to display undefined, and that's not a valid SRC for an image. If you take a look at your JS tester, we wrote code that cycled it back through. So you wrote code already that used number as the variable, and when it got to the max size, it cycled back through. So I'm going to leave you to take a look at that, modify this so that your code will now cycle back through. When it gets to the last element, the next time it's clicked, instead of undefined in a broken image, it's going to cycle back through it and show the first. So I've made that change. Let's refresh this page. This is what you should see. There's Michael Scott, Jim, Pam, Dwight. Moment of truth goes back to Michael Scott. Right? So that's the first step. And then we'll look to adding sound.